Buenos Dias Gunners Collective. Back at it, you already know. Like a motherfucking smack addict. Bye up, bye up, bye up, ba da ba ba ba. Right? Damn, I love that song. Earth, Wind, and Fire. Cause it's all about love. That's the jam, right? Now trip out. In a menudo style in a direct fashion, I wanted to talk about how a friend can become your enemy and how an enemy can become your friend. And I think back to when I was younger, man, and I was hanging around with the homeboys from the hood, and we used to be in all kinds of mischief, right? And you guys know it. Back in the 90s, early 90s, right before I went to YA, we were running and gunning, man. We were getting into all types of mischief, all types of pleito, anything that involved gangbanging or anything that involved fucking with the other side, we were involved in it. And we were having fun while doing it. But we were young kids, striving, coming up. We had that mentality. I had that northern mentality. The can't stop, won't stop. And I wouldn't stop, right? And I continued to build on my reputation. I continued to be a little hard ass. I remember my jefita used to tell me, stop hanging around with them guys. They're bad influence. And I used to think to myself, shit, I'm the bad influence. Gar! Right, I was the bad one. I was one of the ones in the mix actually acting out, doing too much. And that's why my life has ended up the way it has, Not a disappointment, but different. Now, I'm different. Yeah, 2 Chainz. Now, look, trip out on this. There was these Vatos, they moved from Bakersfield, right? And they had moved into the town quietly. And we had been hearing about them, okay, there's a few brothers. One of them actually was a norteño or decided to become one later on in life. But we had heard that they were from the South. And so everybody was on their head. If we can catch up, we can catch up. But we didn't know quite particularly where these guys lived. Even though Merced is a smaller town, we didn't know exactly where they were wiggling. Excuse me, I got the hiccups. We didn't know exactly where they were wiggling. But they were out there. So a couple of the homeboys that I used to hang around with, one of them had this pleito with this dude named Benny. I remember back in the day, what are they, Benny? Right? I haven't said that name in a minute since I've been up in it, right? But it's been a long time. He had pleito with them. He had beef. And so it was kind of like on site. If they seen each other, they were going to get off. Well, we were all hanging out at this chick named Desiree's pad. I remember chilling. This was the spot, This was our go-to where we'd go hang out, kick back, and refresh ourselves. So let's have a good meal. Her jefita was cool. She would cook for us. Just a whole bunch of youngsters, badasses, red rags everywhere, paños flowing. We thought we were bad, right? That was the gangbanging mentality, man. Hey, recuperate, refresh, go back out there for another 3-4 days and fuck it up, right? And then come back. So this was our spot. And I remember I used to be trying to pop at this chick. She was bad, but she was into my other homeboy. But sounds good, that didn't mean nothing. Back in them days, Hey, it was free for all. It ain't no fun if the homies can't have none. Can no Snoop Dogg? Right? So we were trying to get our issue on. And I remember I was chilling in the house. I was eating comida with my homeboy, rest in peace, Sabian. We were kicking back when all of a sudden I heard a loud bang, beep, 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 boom, 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 right? That meant somebody was getting their fucking ass whooped outside. There was something going down. So we all ran out and rushed to the house, rushed out of the house. And when we got out, my homeboy Lil Ray was fucking getting into it with this Vato, right? Benny. And they were getting it, man. Now you got to understand, at that time, Benny was a norteño or northerner, I think, right? So I can't call it, right? The story gets tricky, right? Anyways, tricky shit, tricky dance moves. Anyways, they're getting down, bam, 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 handling their business. And we're all kind of leaning back watching. Well, this Vato's with them. He was kind of like a couple years older, mean mugging us, wearing all black. I remember, and I was like, hey, what's that? You see how I right there? Who is this Vato? I don't recognize this Vato. This Vato has not a lick of red on him. Just is he from that other side? Because he looks like one of them guys from that other side. Right? So I'm over here gangbanging 101, trying to figure this guy out if he's from the south or the north. When all of a sudden, man, my homeboy's like, oh, hell no, right? The little homie's getting his ass whooped. This dude Benny's on him like a motherfucking pit bull on a sirloin, right? Giving him the business. Hung. He's fucking him up. So one of my homeboys goes to lean in to throw a little kick. You know what I mean? Ain't no fun if the little homie can't have nothing. So he's trying to throw a little kick. When this guy pulls out something on us, right? He's holding us at bay. And I'm like, and he's like, this surese. And I was like, oh, hell nah. Hell to the no, right? This fool got us under the gun, man. And there ain't really nothing we could do about it, right? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, hey, get down, Benny. He's kind of like, get down, demon. Fuck these other ratas. We're going to build a white picket fence and shit, right? So the homie's getting smashed on at this point. And there's nothing we could do. You want to get shot, right? So I'm kind of like, hey, point the gun at me. I was a little bit older, a year or two, older than some of the homies. So I'm like, point the gun at me, like a baboso, right? Knowing damn well I didn't want to get shot. I ain't even going to front here and say I'm that hard, right? Pointed at me, hey, pointed at me. He's like, all right, puto. I was like, oh, shit, right? So the Vault's pointing the strap at me, and out of all of us, and it's kind of holding us at bay. Anyways, the homeboys, they get down. He jumps up. One of them's wolfing. Hey, how can you kick it with that fool, man? Look at that fool. And that fool's like, shit, fuck all you Vault's, right? I'm like, damn, so that's one of the ones, one of the brothers, right? Anyways, they jam, take off running. Of course, my homeboy pulls something out. Not hung, hung, hung. Agang. That's a different type of gun, Whack 100, right? So he's letting that go, letting cannons blow. They take off. So we're trying to revive the homie. Are you okay? I think I got beat up by North and South, right? No, it's all good, right? Anyway, so we revived the homeboy. He's back like vibrant. And I'm like, who was that Vato, right? They were like, oh, this is the homeboy, whoop-de-whoop. And his primo, right? I guess his primo was one of the cats from Baker's that had just moved into town, right? That we'd been hearing so much about. So it was time to make his acquaintance, right? It was going to be a rather momentous or sharp occasion because I had a little pico de guy on me, right? It wasn't going to compare to the little 22 yeah, but so at the same time, you know, I'm working with what I got. Weaponry was involved. So we went looking for this cat. Couldn't find him, right? Couldn't find him, didn't know where he dwelled in the lab 24/7 and just didn't know. So we kind of forgot about him. Well, I ended up meeting a chick. And like most of us do, I started to cupcake and hang around more with this chick than I was with the homeboys. And this happened to become my first baby mama. You know, shit, man, I'm still thinking about the pussy right now at this point. Okay, wasn't that good. Anyways, but I was doing my thing and started to cupcake with the chick and started to hang around with the homeboys less. So I didn't know what they were involved in and what they were doing, right? Now, you got to understand that this time, right, I had just met the chick. And it's just a brief acquaintance, you know what I mean? Later on, I would meet her, and when I got out of YA, she would become the baby's mother, right? But this was just a little brief occurrence. Well, I guess she had some interaction with these people, you know, with these brothers. I didn't know this at this time, and this would all come into play later on. So let's fast forward to years later. I do my YA term, I get out, I'm 18 with a bullet. I got my finger on the trigger, I'm fist to pull it. Or was I? I don't know, right? They call me the gun. Anyway, so I get out, and I'm thinking I'm this big bad motherfucker with a Mongolian walking around town, still active, still in general population, still cool at that point, right? I just thought I was the shit. I ended up meeting up with this chick, and the cupcake gang is real. It's still hostess between us. It's still Twinkie, right? So I'm getting my twinkleization on, and everything is good. Well, we fast forward to about a year later. She gets pregnant, has my kid. I end up catching a case and going to Sandy Mush, which is our equivalent of camp to the county jail. It's kind of like Sacramento. They have the branch, and then they have downtown, but we have Sandy Mush, and then we have downtown. So I'm in Sandy Mush doing a few months. I forget what it was about, but I'm in there chilling with the homies, you know? And this is way before, this is pre-structured. Like, we weren't all how it is now, you know what I mean? People fucking posties and all that. There was none of that. What it was just homeboys going there. We all kick it together, and that was that. Well, I ended up running into to a homeboy, right? Who knows these guys. And we start to reminisce and bring them up. Hey, remember them guys back in the days? He was like, yeah, I remember them. He's like, they're still around. I said, fuck, for reals? Damn, the homies never got with their programs? Like, nope, they always got with the homies program. They was about the shit, all these brothers. So anyways, my chick at the time, she starts coming to visit, and I could tell something ain't right. But you know, they say time heals all wounds. We were having issues and problems before I got incarcerated, so I needed that time to sit down and really contemplate and think about what the fuck was going on, right? So she kind of moved on. She floated on like the floaters, right? Like the third one singing, you know, Cancer, and my name is Larry, right? She was out. That's cool because at this point in time, I was out. So I couldn't do nothing about it. I was in, but I was out. So she's out of here. And I start to hear from my primos when I get out of jail that, you know, she's fucking with this one-armed bandit, this guy with one hand, who happens to be one of the brothers of the guy that I'm speaking on right now, I'm talking about. Now, I knew that she was with this Vato, so I would have to call his pad to get in communication for my daughter. Which, hey, for anyone who's a baby's daddy, hey, it's a very humbling experience to have to call another fucking Vato's house to get a hold of your baby mama, right? Because you don't know who's going to answer. And in this particular day, I didn't know who was going to answer, so I called, right? Ring, ring, right? What's happening? There's Vato answers. He's like, who's this? I said, this is Gunner. Hey, I'm trying to get a hold of my baby mama. You know what I mean? Is she over there with chorra in her mouth, or can she speak right now? He's like, hey, homie, You know what I mean? She's with my brother. Don't be calling my pad. I was all types of busters and types of strellas and all types of different things, right? So I knew this was Southern Raza, right? I was like, oh, hell no, right? He's like, hey, bro, don't be calling my pad disrespectful. I'm like, hold up. I ain't never said nothing disrespectful. I see you. All I said, can I see my kid, eh? Right? They got my kid hostage. It's a hostage situation. Basically, this chick is doing what she's doing with his brother. His brother's in Norteño. He's just outside. The house is all fucked up. I don't know who's there. There's 2 paisas, a partridge, and a pear tree, right? Anyways, and a wood brother in the corner smoking crack and drinking coffee, right? So there's a little bit of everything at this fucking pad. But I remember us getting into it. And I try to keep it as respectful as possible because understand my kid was in the mix and I didn't want to disrespect. Again, this Vato had me under the gun pretty much, right? It was the same guy. Later on, I would find that out when we became from foe to friends. Trip, right? So we have that conversation. It is what it is. Eventually, I get hold of my baby's mom. Bitch, how can you put me in that type of situation? Don't you ever. Oh, yeah, what's up, right? Anyways, she had me tied up for a minute until old boy started beating on her, and that was that. Now, this dude ends up catching the case, right? He ends up catching a wild case, but he was as real as they come. So trip out on this. So what happens is I guess they were in Winton or Atwater is where they hung out. That's where the Southerners hang out in Merced County, right? That's their little area. He was out there hanging around with one of his camaradas, one of his close homeboys. When I guess they were sitting at a store and his homeboy was talking about these 2 vatos that were telling from his same barrio or hood or whatever they were from, right? He was telling me, yeah, see that fucking water doggy? You know what to be, you know what I mean? These vatos are fucking rats and this and that. And as this vato's sitting here telling him the story now, you got to understand this guy who had pulled the strap on me, who had fucking, his baby mama, my baby mama, the drama. He's sitting there listening. Now, he had become somebody within his gang at this time. He was very well respected. Like I said, he was always about the business since we were younger, right? I just didn't realize it. I guess these 2 individuals pull up in a ride right next to him. And his homeboys that's talking to him saying, nah, hey, fucking rat punks, homes. When we see him, it's on and cracking this shit. And I'm going to give it to him, dog, right? They pull up. And as they pull up, the Vato who's telling him the story turns around and is like, oh, what's up, homies? What's up, that shit? Right? It's all good. All of a sudden, it's all good now. It's all hood now, right? Well, the Vato that I'm talking about, he don't play, right? And he's like, what? He did the Tony Montana, right? Killing Manny. Like, what? He pulls out the strap, banks both of them, bop, bop, and kills his own homeboy, bop. For being a fronter, for being a backstabber, for basically being two-faced, right? Gives everybody the business. Well, eventually he goes on the run and gets popped, right? Catches 45 to life or something in that range, right? I can't lie to you. I'll die with you before I lie with you, right? I got to be accurate. It was about 40, 45 years to life. I know he caught the elbow. He's still locked up right now as we speak. Hopefully this Vato gets out one day. So that's that. So throughout the twists and turns, his life takes him wherever it takes him, right? So I end up hitting a yarda, right? And when I hit this yarda was, the Northerners were non-active, right? They were non-active, they were non-affiliated. But let me tell you, let me explain something to you guys, because you guys hear about 50-50 yards and non-active yards, and everybody jumps to the conclusion that motherfuckers are just suckers, or hanging out with chomos, or kicking back a rata, or doing this or like this, and like that. It's not nothing like that. Guard! Let me give him the rundown. Can I give him the rundown? I am anyways, bitch, right? So this is it. How it was back then, a real true 50-50 yard was everybody else was active except the group you were from if you went to them yards. Now it switched up. Sometimes there were southern 50-50 yards. Sometimes there were northern 50-50 yards, right? It just depended. There really wasn't no black or white 50-50 yards because blacks and whites were on a whole different trajectory, different fucking politics, different bullshit, right? The Woods were like, brother, we don't need 50-50. We just need coffee, right? The brothers, you know what I mean? They were just doing their thug thizzle. So anyways, I get to a 50-50 yard. Yes, I said it. Fill it up with unleaded, right? I've said it before and I'll say it again. And the homeboys that were there, we were still checking paperwork. We were still making sure that we were righteous. We just weren't functioning under certain groups' idealisms, right? And that's just the way it was. Didn't mean you could walk or step on our toes or crack our toenails because motherfuckers would get off where they were mad at. Well, I happened to see this guy. And I'm thinking, oh, hell to the no, right? We're going to have issues, but we haven't seen each other for years, right? So I'm working in the kitchen one day and this Vato walks in. He's new to the kitchen and true to the kitchen. I'm like, oh, hell no, here it goes. This is where I'm going to get off where I'm mad at, because we had words 25 years ago, the last time that we talked, right? Or 20 years ago. You know, let's see if there's an issue. So he kind of walked straight up to me and he's like, what's up, Bessie? I'm like, what's up? He's like, so you're on this side now, huh? And I said, what do you mean this ain't? He said, you're not active? I said, no, I'm not involved in that anymore, bro. I kind of took a step back from that, so I kind of was forced. My hand was forced. He goes, well, look, remember that last conversation we had? I said, yeah, I remember. Why? What's up? And now you got to understand, my baby mama, she done ruined his brother's whole life, ruined my life, ruined every man after that's life, right? So everything is different at this point. So he's like, yeah, bro. He was like, man, Spencer, I was tripping. It's not like that. I'm more of a respectful fella. He was still acting. He was still in the mix, but he was having this conversation with me real slick and on the unders, right? And I respected that. And I said, that's right. He said, he goes, when I seen you hit the yard, I seen you, bro. He was like, I was at the point where I was going to be like, fuck it, let's get it. He goes, but then I thought about it. You're one of the only Vatos from my town. I said, well, hold up. What do you mean your town? I said, that's my town. Remember, you're from Bakersfield. You moved into my town. You're from the 805, now the 661, but you moved into my shit. I'm from the Deuce O'Neill. You know what I mean? So I was good. Let's not get it twisted. But anyways, once we figured that out, we actually became good friends. Actually, when I paroled from that place, man, I took a portrait, to his familia that someone had drawn for him, right? He had to give it to me real slick, so the other Southerners didn't see, but it's facts, It's kind of what it was. He ended up becoming a real good friend of mine. To this day, we're still friends. And he was a righteous dude, still doing his thing, but at the same time recognized and understood what it was to separate pleasure from business. And we ended up becoming real cool. You never know who your worst enemy can become your greatest ally. I didn't have to worry about a lot right there. Southerners didn't even look in my direction, man. He had a lot of fucking respect. He just was that one, and that was cool. But let me flip it. Let me flip that. Let me work it. Let me flip it. Strike it, then reverse it. Is y'all with me? Yes, this is where we at, right? And this is exactly where we're at. Is how your friends can become your worst enemies. Okay, that was a story about how an enemy became a friend and a righteous dude, man. And in life, man, I've sent him feria. I've looked out for him. You know what I mean? He's hooked me up with certain things, man. It's just good, man. It's good in the hood. But anyway, so I had a homeboy from my neighborhood, right? And we were never that close in the beginning, but over time, gradually, man, we became taitas, right? Good friends. And there was no love loss. There was no hatred or animosity between us, I thought. But little did I know the whole time he was plotting on my demise. He was hating on me for things that were out of my fucking, out of my, into my car, right? Things that were out of my reach, homes. As I got out of YA and did prison term after prison term and violations or whatever, I had a little bit of respect, man. I'm not going to sit here and bullshit you guys and act like I was the hardest one in the Vadu, because I wasn't. I was nothing close to that. But I had respect within my Vadu. I had respect by little homies. They used to call me the big homie. I remember the first time they said that, I couldn't believe it. I was like, so I got married today. I had a little bit of respect. And this guy was envious of that. He was envious of that because he was striving towards that same type of respect. But everything is dictated in the streets by the work you put in. Everything is dictated by just circumstances, humps. You know what I mean? That's why I can't sit here when I sit here and say people are pickers and choosers and people show individualism and favoritism. Well, there was a point in time where I did the same thing, or I was given the favoritism. So I can't really point my fingers in that direction. You know what I mean? Pointing fingers is not a great thing anyways. So what I'm saying is I understood his plight and why he was so upset. But I'm his homeboy from his barrio, you know what I mean? You can't be that mad. I mean, we knew each other since we were younger. We rode BMX bikes and Diamondbacks together. This Volta slowly but gradually was plotting my demise. When I say plotting my demise is, he gets incarcerated in the county jail at the time my brother's fighting his case, to which he just did 20-something years. He just got out, and started to take it out on my brother, started to trip on my brother because of whose brother he was. Now, at the time, I was still active. I was still functioning. But he was giving my brother a hard time. And I recognize that. So I felt some type of way. To this day, I can still say there's an animosity there. There's a chip on his shoulder. And there's now a chip on my shoulder. We don't see eye to eye. What he's doing in life is what he's doing in life. I ain't going to speak on his name or bring attention to it other than saying this. We were great friends that became bitter rivals and bitter enemies. So trip out on this. I remember one time I get to county jail. And he's there, and he's in a position of authority, right? He's in a position of authority just based on who he is and how long he's been there. So now I get there, and automatically, now he's in that position where I'm an underling. Now he's in a position where I'm not the top of the food chain, or I'm not fucking in the Vadu where homeboys are looking up to me. So now he feels he wants to flex his power and his muscle, right? And I'm going to tell you what happens, man. This Volta tried to smut me up. He tried to smut me up for hanging around with an individual who is now active, right? While this individual that I was hanging around with was actually like a brother to me, very close family. family friend. I've known him since I was fucking 4 or 5 years old. His brother's actually my best friend. And he had a faulty case at the time, they thought, right? So he was on ice. He was under suspicion. He had a question mark on his name. Everybody was tripping. So he utilized, by me being his homeboy, his very close family friend, he utilized that to put me in a position to where I almost got whacked in the county, right? So I'm in the county jail. And I'm doing my thing, and you can start to feel the tension. You can start to feel the motion of the ocean. You know, the Pacific, to be specific. The Red Sea's about to part. I can feel something going on by the way the homies' eyes are going like this. Right? They're starting to look at me, and I'm like, God, I'm fuck. Oh, shit, it's about to go down. And I get a wheelow. Abreast of me, man, that I'm going to be invited to a junta on the yarda. They need to get at me. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to get whacked on this yard. For what? I don't know. Right? So a good homeboy of mine, thank God, had just come in, who slid right into a position of power just based on who the fuck he was, right? And he was a real righteous dude. So anyways, we go to this yarda, and I can't tell you the details on how it went down. All I can say is we had a conversation, man. And we were able to facilitate a conversation, whereas I got cleared and everything was good, you know? And come to find out, it was this guy pushing the narrative on me. Your own friends who you think are cool with you. We might have had a little bitterness and a little bit of animosity towards each other just because of one thing or another. But he was the one pushing the agenda on me. Now, I wanted to tell you, 2 homeboys I got. Righteous homeboys. I love them both to death, right? One, I say a little bit more than the other. But I've known them both as good as homeboys. Now, these dudes were taitas, best friends, always together, fucking, if one had $5, the other one had 10, and they put in gas and they rolled together. They were just good homeboys. And I'm going to tell you how that situation worked out for them, and how they got played, or one of them did at least. You know, I remember you couldn't say one's name without the other. You'd always see them in the barrio together, cruising. And one day I get into the county, and they're like, hey, did you hear about the homeboy whoop-de-whoop? And I'm like, what happened? They're like, hey, he got whacked. I'm like, for reals? What'd he do? Because he was always a cool-ass homeboy. We're talking about someone who'd been to Pelican Bay, Corcoran, Tehachapi. He'd been through all the shoes. You know, his name was out there. He was really putting in that work, right? So I was like, Serio? He got whacked? What happened, right? So what had happened was, I guess while he was out and his homeboy, his good taita, was incarcerated, he happened to slide to the homeboy's house to go drop off a little something to look out for his familia. And somewhere over the rainbow, he decided to bone his old lady. Now, we know that that was out of bounds. He should have never did that, but he did that, right? He says, his story is, man, you understand, she answered the door looking like, shudum, written all over her face, right? He goes, so I had to say some words. So anyways, he ends up fucking doing bad things with her. And everything's cool for, I guess, a couple of years. This, it's under the radar. No one knew. No one even tripped on it. Eventually, the chick fucking tells her old man, hey, you know, your homeboy came over. You know what I mean? He slipped, you know what I mean? He did the forefinger, whatever to me. And this chick is like, what? The homeboy's like, what? You know, his chick's telling him this. He can't believe it. So what he does is he, instead of going out there and handling business, you understand, they're both out at this time. He could have went, pulled up on the motherfucker's front door, C4 at your door, no beef, no more. But instead of doing that, what does he do? He gets political, man. He waits till they both get incarcerated and he starts pushing the political agenda on them. And ultimately, that fool does end up getting whacked. Did he deserve it? Righteously so. Did I ever see it coming from his own best friend? Nah, but did I ever see him boning his best friend's old lady? Didn't see that one either. So there was a whole lot of blindness going on. But that's just an example of how your enemy can become your friends and your friends can become your enemies. You know, who would have ever thought in this day and age? Now, I'm not active. I'm not a gang member. I'm not living that life, you know. A lot of people say, well, why you speak on politics? I'm not speaking on politics, man. If you listen to my stories correctly, there's a lot I don't said that can be said. There's a lot of other channels that give you way more in-depth details on things they shouldn't, right? I don't, because it's not my fucking business. I'm just telling you how we rocked and how we rolled. It's it, Guns N' Roses, right? That's just what I'm doing. Twisted Sister, we're not gonna take it. And I'm not, man. I'm not going to take you guys through a certain journey of giving you guys too much game. But I'm going to give you the knowledge you can't get in college. The diamond in the rough, you know. I'm a diamond in the dirt that ain't been found. I'm the underground king, yes, it? Yeah, I got that crown. But I'm going to continue to do me. Anyways, you know, nowadays, me being non-active, man, there's a lot of authors from the South that I kick it with. A lot of authors that I show love to. In fact, some author reached out to me yesterday who I thought I would never talk to, man. But there's a lot of love I have and respect for the Southerners. Doesn't mean I still ain't got that burning desire and love for the cause for the Northerners, man, because I do. And I always will, right? I know where I come from a food stamp to a ramen, to the pinta, to you know what it is, right? To a fat bitch. But I'm just doing my thing. But anyways, I still got love. I just know and understand now that it's all about the brown, man. And sometimes the people that you least expect you would kick it with become your greatest allies, man. And it's just the way the world works. With that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed the stories, man. Like and subscribe. Turn all notifications on. A lot of them say personalized. Turn them to all so that way you guys get the game, you guys get the gab, you guys get the realness, and you already know what it is, man. I'm going to continue to drop jewels of the, it's the jewel of the Nile. I'm going to continue to drop it like I pop it, man, and that's just what it is. With that being said, I hope that you move smooth with a purpose, get everything that you want coming to you. Remember, at the end of each and every fucking day, there's always going to be a gun right there, right? Telling you a story just to amuse you, man, just for entertainment purposes, and just to speak some realness. You know what it is. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Heavy's going to be the head that wears the crown. I'm going to continue to strive and struggle and struggle and strive for what I honestly and truly believe in. And that's bringing the raza, the black people, the woods, the best possible entertainment I can. I forgot about the Usos. What's up, Solex? You already know what it is. It's the gun. Bye-bye.